Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today I want to discuss Stomaria's economic development.
This is how nations are built and empires are forged. For every nation that becomes integrated into the empire, for every territory that we acquire, for every citizen that joins us, for every drop of water we collect, for every seed that we sow, for every watt of energy we produce, for every silver bar that we stamp, we are securing our future.
So for those of you who have seen the previous video, that being the progress report for Southwood, July 2023, you will know that at Southwood, the first ever Stomarian province, the first territory that has been owned by the imperial family and dedicated entirely to Stomaria, to the community, to our project, to our cause, the produce that we are growing there, this is the first produce that we have ever grown. And this is the first time that we've ever had an actual economy to speak of. And I say this because we have streams of revenue, and we've always had, or for a large part of our history, always had various streams of revenue, and we have been able to produce things through third parties. So for instance, the flags, the badges, the arm patches that we have, the embroidered arm patches, or any passport covers or anything like that, any kind of merchandise, I suppose, are all produced by third parties. And we have sold a lot of these to our supporters over the years to generate revenue. We also have people who have contributed financially of their own accord to Stomaria because they believe in what we are trying to do, they support what we're trying to do, and they want to contribute financially to help cover the costs that we incur. And we also have, for instance, the monetized YouTube channel. That was monetized, I believe, the tail end of 2021 from memory. And that has generated hundreds of pounds of revenue for Stomaria over the last, whatever it is, 2 years or so. That has been quite helpful for us in propelling us further as well. But in terms of us actually being able to produce things ourselves, that has always eluded us. And this is one of the reasons why that when Stomaria was founded and when it was finding its feet, one of the main purposes of Stomaria and the empire as a whole was for Stomaria to act as a conduit for people, for individuals, for nations and communities to engage with one another through Stomaria. And the reason and the way that we did this was that we wanted to promote the utilization of sound money and the utilization of the silver Stomarian stater coin and now the silver Stomarian stater bar, we were able to act as that conduit, where people could take these coins, could take these bars, and they would have real world value. They would have a tangible worth. They weren't just little bits of paper that someone had printed off at home. They were real silver, and they could be exchanged with people confident in the knowledge that they actually had purchasing power. They had value. They were a commodity money. They were a sound money. They were a real money. And that was one of the big draws for a lot of people when it came to approaching Stomaria and trying to associate with Stomaria, because we did have the resources to produce these sorts of coins, the sorts of bullion, and it really gave us an edge over a lot of others in the sense that we could engage in genuine trade and transactions, even though we could not produce things ourselves. However, as I mentioned earlier in this video, we are now producing things ourselves. And so the next natural step, I suppose, is what more can we produce? And what of what we've already produced are we going to do with that produce? And this has been something that I've been considering for a little while now. Because of what we are and how we operate and the size of our economic output and the number of citizens within Stomaria, it's all very small, very low-key compared to the wider world. So comparatively speaking, we are not even minnows in the ocean. We're far smaller than that even, and that's just a fact. I know there's a lot of Stomarian diehards, a lot of Stomarian patriots out there that might recoil at such a suggestion, but there is a bigger world out there, and what we're doing is very, very small scale at the moment. So with that in mind, in terms of us growing produce at Southwood, for instance, or in any of the territories that we acquire in the future, we need to think about how we can go about preserving that for as long as possible. In the sense that if we, pick a tomato and we have that tomato, we have to move that very, very quickly. And ideally what I would like to do is I'd like to have that distributed, purchased, traded, whatever else, with a part of the wider empire. So that'll be a citizen of Stomaria, or potentially Wayward, or Vesta, or whoever else might be associated within the empire at that time. However, the life expectancy of a tomato is obviously not that great. And so what do we do if we can't move this produce quickly, if we can't do everything as instantaneously as we like? And this is the question that I've asked myself. And I've come up with some pretty simple solutions. The first being that we are going to see what is going to truly thrive at Southwood, and indeed all the future territories. And we are going to be trying to focus on that produce. Maybe 2 or 3 crops on each territory, depending on which particular crop is thriving the most. And we are going to choose these based on not just how well they thrive on that particular territory, but also in which way we can preserve them. And a good example of this would be any number of the berries that we're growing. So any of the strawberries or the blueberries or the raspberries or the blackberries that are grown at Southwood. We want to not just have the berries and then just have them go off in a matter of weeks, but we want to take them and we want to preserve them by creating jams. And this is something that we've been looking into for a few weeks now, and we will be experimenting, I think, with jam production. So we might just go buy some strawberries and buy some raspberries or buy some blackberries or whatever else, just so we can practice making the jam. And then once we've mastered it, once we are competent with it, then we will take our own berries, our own strawberries, our own blackberries, our own raspberries, and then we will make genuine jam that is either Stomarian or Waywoodian or Vestian or whatever else. And I think that is how we're going to go about it, because Wayward South actually has an enormous abundance of berries, not least blackberries. And I have floated this idea, and I think King Raoul has been quite receptive of it, that we acquire or trade for those blackberries or raspberries or strawberries or whatever they might have at the time. And we will take those and we will make jam ourselves. And that will be a way of preserving the longevity of our produce, but also give it an extra edge. You're not just buying a tub of berries, you're buying a jam, and I think that's I think it's potentially more appealing. But in terms of most fruits and vegetables, I mean, I'm sure there are ways you can preserve their life longer in terms of them being pickled and all the rest of it, but we could be more adventurous with it. We could make, with the tomatoes, for instance, we could make some sort of sauce or ketchup or something like that and have that preserved in some sort of can or tin in that sense. Or with the potatoes, for instance, we don't really need to necessarily pickle or do anything extraordinary with it, because those potatoes that we do grow are likely, if we keep them in the right environment, going to last long into the future as they are. If we, just stick them in a sack with, a nice cool environment in a dark cupboard somewhere or something like that, there is a particular environment that potatoes like, which will make them last for many months. And that might be long enough for us to find potential trade partners or buyers for Stomarian potatoes, as an example. But the idea going forward is that we want to be able to preserve what we produce in as sustainable way as possible, but in terms of longevity, we want it to survive for long periods of time. Another critical component of that will be honey, because we do have Stomarian citizens that actually produce honey, or will soon be producing honey. They've already got the hive, the flow hive, and they've got the nuke, the bees. They're all going doing what they need to do, and they're currently filling up that hive with honey. And so hopefully we will have some Stomarian honey before too long. And again, that's another exciting development. And honey, again, is one of those things that will last for a long time. And that's really going to be our focus in terms of having like jams and honeys and long-lasting fruits and vegetables. We just want to be able to produce things that are going to last. And one of the reasons for this is because the way in which we're going to actually engage in the trade and the commerce and the enterprise that we keep encouraging others to do. And that's going to be a focus. First and foremost, we want to be able to trade with fellow Stomarians, fellow Weirwoodians, fellow Bestians, and then moving outwards, we want to trade with external allies and friends of Stomaria, depending on where they are in the world and who wants what. But trying to keep it within our circle, within our community, and with those associated with the empire as a whole. That is the priority, that is the preference. And doing so, we would ideally, again, like to utilize silver Stomarian stater bars or silver Stomarian stater coins, because that gives it that utilization. We have the medium of exchange. We had the medium of exchange for a long time, but in terms of the actual produce, this is the thing that we really struggle to acquire, not just from our own perspective, but from others as well, because not everyone always has something to trade or exchange with. And trying to find people who actually like us, people who are trying to become more self-reliant in terms of their food production or energy production or water production or whatever it may be, people that are producing things and for us to acquire and to engage in that exchange with, that is very hard to come by. And so doing it ourselves, like most of what I have to do is, if you want something done right, you do it yourself. That is the mantra that I typically have. I very rarely like to trust anyone to do something that I think I can do better, or I can certainly do myself in some form or another. But trying to encourage other people to have this mindset of trying to provide for yourself and for others around you, and then your surplus can be exchanged for things that you might not be able to produce or might not be able to acquire without going to the sovereign nations of the world for supplementing your lifestyle. If you can do it with a community like Stomaria or like Weirwood or like Vesta, then that is the ideal. And utilizing silver or gold or some other sound money, some other commodity money, some other real money as a medium of exchange. That is the first preference that we have. That is the primary core purpose of the empire. It is an empire of trade, it's an empire of commerce, and it's an empire of enterprise. That is what we're all about. But failing that, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be setting up on our website a formal imperial market. Now, just as a quick aside, for those that don't know, we already had an eBay business account, which was effectively the imperial market, where we sold merchandise, Sumerian merchandise. We have since, I don't think it's been closed down yet, but it has been hidden, it's been taken offline. With the intention of closing it down, because what we want to do is we want to just have it on our own website. And it's the same with Patreon. Initially we were on Patreon, but now we just do it through our own website. And the idea is that gradually we're just reducing our dependency on third parties and bringing it all together so we can do it ourselves in some form or other. There will always be, a PayPal account or a bank involved up to a point. But this is only really for people that are not directly involved within the empire, in the sense that the imperial market will be there and available for supporters of Stomaria to purchase if they so wish. So we'll have jams advertised, we'll have fruits and vegetable advertised if they're pickled or preserved in some way, alongside Stomarian merchandise and any other things that we produce ourselves, as well as by third parties in the case of merchandise like flags, badges, and that sort of thing. But the idea is that we will really start to ramp up one of our core fundamental objectives, which is to be able to not only produce goods ourselves, produce our own food, produce our own water, supply our own energy, and to really attain that much more self-reliance and attain that much more self-determination through legal and legitimate means. That is our primary focus, and to be able to trade with others, to be able to engage in commerce and enterprise, that is what we're all about. And so that is what our next step is in terms of what we are trying to accomplish here. And this is, of course, all very exciting, because as we push away the third parties and we focus more on our own communities, that is what Stomaria is about. We are about bringing people together for real world change, to have a real impact on people's lives, to reduce dependency on the sovereign nations of the world, and to focus on establishing our own communities, our own societies, our own civilizations. And even though it might seem trivial, even though it might seem incredibly small in scale, and in a lot of cases it is nevertheless the starting point. These are the first few steps, the first few real steps that we are taking in accomplishing our long-term goals. Because people forget, when we were founded in 2019, we had literally nothing. We had no citizens, there were no nations within the empire, we had no merchandise, we didn't have our own sound money, didn't have anything. We had nothing established. We had a set of values and objectives which we were gradually refining over the course of a year. But even up between 2019 and 2020, we increased in popularity, and a lot of people knew about us, but we still didn't have anything in the sense that we had no land, we had no citizens. The empire consisted for the first year of 2 people, and only in the last week or so of our first year of our existence did we become 3 people when little Princess Eleanor was born. And so we've come from nothing, and now we are just making huge strides, comparatively speaking, from where we started in terms of how far we're going with this. I did actually mention this to someone who commented on one of our posts on YouTube a little while ago, a few days ago, I think it was, saying, it's fantastic to see how far you've grown. And I said, well, yes, we have. Since we were first founded, since we were nothing more than literally our flag on a flagpole in the corner of my living room. That was one of the first photos, if not the first photo, that was ever taken and published into the onto the internet, into the wider public space. That was where it started, as a flag in the corner of my living room. And now we have entire nations and communities of people coming together to form a part of an empire, which is really going to shape the lives of the people that become a part of it in some form or another, on some scale or another. That is what we are going to be doing. And it is fantastic to see when I compare, where we started compared to what we have accomplished, in the sense that you only have to look at the Imperial Summit, for instance, just last June, and it is staggering to me just how far you can come when you really work at it, when you really fight for what you believe in, when you don't make excuses, when you ignore all the noise, when you shut out the bickering, the nonsense, the trivialities that come with this kind of nation building process, and you really focus on what you're trying to do, you can really accomplish some great things. So with all that in mind, if you did support Stomaria and you wanted to show your support for Stomaria, then please feel free to give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.